One piece of advice has echoed everywhere. Just take the step. It doesn't have to be perfect. Inspired effort is all it takes for the universe to start responding. But what if it doesn't? What if you're doing everything right, showing up, following the nudges, trusting the process, and the breakthrough still doesn't come? Welcome to the Everything Embodiment Podcast, where I will help you find peace, understanding, and love all within your human body, enhancing your mind-body connection through the exploration of vast ideas, concepts, and modalities, discussions all meant to propel you along your own unique spiritual journey. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Welcome back to the Everything Embodiment Podcast. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Before we dive in, I just want to say this episode isn't a pep talk, it's a truth talk. It's about those moments when you've done everything right and still nothing seems to move. I'm sharing what that's really like, what it's taught me, and how I'm learning to listen to the healed heart instead of chasing another breakthrough. Since I started my spiritual entrepreneur journey, one piece of advice has echoed everywhere. Just take the step. It doesn't have to be perfect. Inspired effort is all it takes for the universe to start responding. But what if it doesn't? What if you're doing everything right, showing up, following the nudges, trusting the process, and the breakthrough still doesn't come? That's where I found myself lately, in the space between effort and evidence. And that space has its own lessons. What I've realized is that sometimes it's not the universe withholding anything. It's our own mind and unhealed heart quietly blocking the very thing we're praying for. Our brains are wired for survival, not expansion. And even when we consciously want success, the subconscious is scanning for risk. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail publicly again? What if I can't sustain it? Every time you take a step towards visibility, the brain runs an old safety script. It convinces you to tweak, delay, or second guess because it thinks it's keeping you safe. Determined to heal and serve, I stopped waiting for perfect. I formed the business. I offered the sessions. I launched the podcast. I used my voice even when it shook. I built the courses and I kept showing up after every quiet launch. So wasn't it supposed to work at some point? That's the part no one talks about. We think awareness automatically equals freedom, but sometimes awareness is only the door, and it doesn't mean that we've walked through it. The brain doesn't just protect you from danger, it protects your identity. It's spent decades learning who you are, the one that works hard, who earns love through effort, who survives disappointment. When success would rewrite that identity, the brain quietly resists. Not because it doesn't want success, but because it doesn't recognize the you who already has it. You know what's tricky? A lot of people get stuck because they never take the leap. But I did. I launched, I taught, I created, I spoke my truth. And I did feel proud. I wasn't waiting to feel successful, I already did. I was living as if the breakthrough had already happened. And yet, it didn't. That's the moment when the spiritual path starts asking harder questions, not the kind you can fix with another affirmation or funnel, but the kind that make you look at what's really being built underneath the surface. Once the fear of failure is handled, the brain often shifts into subtler pattern control. It says, if I can't guarantee the outcome, I'll at least guarantee the effort. So it's noble, it's disciplined, but it can quietly keep the nervous system in a low-level fight response. So even though I was showing up from joy, a tiny thread of tension was still running underneath. Will this be the one that finally works? That micro-tension can block receptive energy, even in someone deeply aligned. It's an unconscious survival mechanism still scanning for certainty. The more I tried to manage alignment, the more I realized this wasn't just a mental lesson. It had moved into the heart. The unhealed heart isn't afraid of effort, it's afraid of loss. And that quiet ache that wonders, what if I give my all again and still nothing changes? So while my conscious heart was full of faith, another layer was whispering, I don't know how many more times I can believe without proof. And maybe that's what the universe is teaching me, how to trust deeper when there's absolutely no evidence yet. So I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I kept creating without the evidence. I'm almost 40 podcast episodes deep. I have had dozens of interviews that stretched me in ways I didn't know I could stretch. I've made offers, classes, events, all from a place of devotion, not desperation. But honestly, it's been quiet. Crickets after launches, people declining free offers, events that no one buys tickets for. I've learned how to hold my head high in the silence, but sometimes even the most faithful heart wonders if the echo means it's over or if it's still building. I don't know when or even if my breakthrough is coming, and yet here I am, still showing up, still making these podcast episodes because I believe in the message and because they genuinely bring me joy. Something in me refuses to let go. But I'll be honest, I've thought about shutting it all down more and more recently. The business, the podcast, the dream. Maybe this episode is my Hail Mary to the universe, a final act of faith from someone who's tired but still tethered to purpose. If this is the end of one version of me, at least let it be honest. Because I'd rather be real in the unknown than pretend I'm fine in the waiting. So what now? Another subconscious healing. Clear another heart wall. Maybe. Because while the brain and the unhealed heart can mislead you, a healed heart won't. A healed heart becomes the compass. It doesn't chase, it knows. As I navigate my own healing journey, I'm constantly reminded that while it does happen in layers, revealing itself only when I'm ready to let something go, there are seasons when the work isn't about healing at all. Sometimes we just need to set all the healing aside and go back to responding to joy. The real integration isn't another breakthrough. It's those micro moments when joy quietly returns and you realize you don't need fixing anymore, just living. So what does it actually look like? Trusting your healed heart and following joy in real time. Because we can talk about faith and surrender all day, but the human part of us wants something to do. 1. Stop assuming silence means failure. Sometimes the quiet isn't rejection, it's digestion. Your energy, your audience, your timing, they're all catching up. The seed doesn't sprout because it's bad. It sprouts when the soil's ready. So before you tear up all the roots, check if you're just in gestation. 2. Audit the energy, not the effort. Ask yourself, what's fueling me right now? Pressure or peace? You can be doing the same actions with completely different frequencies. When I catch myself pushing from anxiety, this has to work. I pause. When I feel pulled from curiosity or truth, I follow that thread. 3. Make something that has zero agenda. When everything feels transactional, make something sacred again. Write a post you'll never publish. Record an episode just to hear your own voice. Do something creative where the outcome can't be measured. That act alone resets the flow. 4. Confront the grief beneath the grind. There's grief in showing up with heart and not being met. Name it. Let it be witnessed. This is the emotional compost that becomes wisdom later. You can cry about it without losing your faith. 5. Shrink the timeline, not the dream. When the big vision feels impossible, zoom into the next right step. Not to manifest faster, but to stay connected. Sometimes that step is sending one email. Sometimes it's a walk. Sometimes it's a rest. Small movements keep energy alive when momentum feels gone. And lastly, 6, remember, nothing you've built disappears. Every post, every class, every podcast episode is an energetic breadcrumb trail that the right people will find when the timing clicks. The universe doesn't waste devotion, it recycles it into openings you can't see yet. The unhealed heart isn't broken, it's protective. It learned love had conditions, effort earned safety, and disappointment meant you cared. It remembers every time you showed up with purity and got silence in return. The mind says I'm ready to succeed. The heart quietly says, but I don't trust I'll be safe when I do. And so the subconscious runs interference, not to sabotage you, but to protect you from heartbreak. That's when you see patterns like over-efforting, trying to earn what's already aligned, over-analyzing, searching for control and uncertainty, avoiding visibility, because being seen means being judged again. Healing begins the moment you realize your resistance is tenderness wearing armor. In spiritual entrepreneurship, this dynamic is amplified. You're not just selling an offer, you're offering yourself. So when the world doesn't mirror that back, it feels personal. The unhealed heart mistakes lack of response for lack of worth. But what it actually needs isn't more hustle or another clearing, it needs witnessing. To be heard saying, I'm tired of hoping, I'm scared this won't ever turn around. I still want to believe, but I don't know how. When you can hold these confessions without rushing to fix them, that's when the armor starts to melt. That's when the healed heart begins to emerge. The one that says, even if nothing changes, I'm still whole. The shift from unhealed to healed doesn't come from some grand epiphany. It's 1,000 small moments of choosing softness over strategy. Each time you stop performing strength and let yourself simply be witnessed, that's heart healing in real time. Eventually, the healed heart no longer chases signs. It doesn't measure proof. It simply knows. I'm safe to love what I love, even if it doesn't love me back yet. Maybe that's the real breakthrough, when loving the work becomes enough. So if you're in that space between effort and evidence right now, I get it. I'm there too. But maybe that's not a sign to quit. Maybe it's a sign to breathe, recalibrate, and to follow joy anyway. If this episode resonated and you're walking your own version of this path, you'll find a lot of comfort inside the resources I've been creating. Everything from energy healing tools to my courses, you can find them all at everythingembodiment.com. But for now, just take what you need from this conversation. But before you go, if this episode hit home for you, would you do me a favor? Follow the podcast and leave a quick review. It helps more people find these stories, and it reminds me that these messages matter. Thank you for being here. I'll be back next week. Thanks again so much for listening.